R96VA furnace, configuring mostly the dip switches. And then we're going to move into a little bit of the Econet, also wiring the humidification on the R96V.
We get many questions on that. And then we're going to move into some error codes, diagnosing some things, and then also we're going to look at a new, just rolled out tool for all the service technicians and installers when it comes to Econet and error codes and some troubleshooting. So we'll get started. Everybody should see my screen over here. It says myream.com. Some of the service notes we'll cover real quick. We're actually looking at pressure switch tables here. We will be emailing out to our group, and you'll see these pressure switch tables are for the older furnaces, RGRAs, RGTCs, and they give the data on where the make and also the break is on some of these switches. So all this will be going out. We just received this information in the past. It's been very difficult to find. So R.I.T.E, they came out with this table, hopefully to help everyone out. So that will be going out to everybody soon. That's just more for diagnostics of some of the older equipment. We also have pressure switch tables for the new equipment and the part number and the break point and max make point of those. This as well will be coming out to all our Rheem and Rude contractors. You will be seeing that probably next week when we get our communications sent out. And you'll see you can have the data plus or minus 0.05 and then be able to match it to the switch that you have. So if you got any questions on that, you can let us know after you receive it. One communication we received recently is really just an upgrade to the mod furnace. Mostly the 97V and 98V modulating gas furnace. They offer stainless steel options through replacement parts, so we can get stainless steel burners should we need them. You just got to remove the old burners and then you can replace them with the new stainless steel. So those are replaceable as a replacement part. So that is an upgrade they're looking at. And the following is going to be, we'll cover the FER blower ratings. So I'll unmute some people here as you raise your hand. If you raise your hand on the webinar, I'll definitely unmute you so you can ask your question. But when it comes to the FER, which is a fan efficiency ratio, that is the ruling coming down by the DOE. So the Department of Energy has definitely ruled out PSC motors being manufactured or installed in furnaces starting July 1st. So no manufacturer will be able to produce a gas furnace with a main circulating blower that is a PSC motor. They will all go to constant torque motors, X13s, or the variable speed constant CFM motors. So are there any questions regarding that blower motor? That is going through. That's definitely going through. It is not going to. At first, they were asking. They may delay it for a little period of time, but that now is going through. So looks like we got a question here. Yes, one of the questions we have is, are we recording this? We will be recording it. All right, I don't see any other questions here. All right, so next thing we're going to get into, we'll dive into the 96 variable speed furnace. One of our most popular furnaces being sold today is that two-stage 96% variable speed furnace. So I'm going to reference the installation manual on everything that we go through. That way you are seeing exactly what you could have in your hand while at the job site. One huge question we always get is about the electronic air cleaner and the humidification terminals. Okay. Main thing to know with the electronic air cleaner, the output, The two terminals on the electronic air cleaner, right here, marked EAC in neutral, those are 110 volt outputs. So the EAC will have 110 volt on it, and then neutral will be your 110 volt neutral. Okay, those are only energized depending on how big of a blower motor you have, but they only energize above 500 CFM. When you get to the larger blower motors, like a 3/4 horsepower or a 1 horsepower motor, they then energize at 600 and 700 CFM. So the minimum is 500 CFM on the standard 17-inch wide furnaces. That's when the EAC will energize these terminals. Now the humidifier terminal. The humidifier terminals here, one important thing to note, those are dry contact terminals, meaning they do not supply voltage out of them from the control board. So these terminals here, after a period of time and we go through some things, it actually closes contacts between it. So these will show continuity between them when we have a call for humidity and certain demands are met. And I'll get into the wiring of that here pretty soon. You'll find that on this page towards the bottom, number 10 here with the humidification, it tells you when 24 volts is present on the thermostat terminal of the IOC labeled HumStat, it will energize those contacts and close those dry contacts. Or if you have a communicating thermostat, the communicating thermostat can close those contacts also. And we'll get down into the wiring here. So humidification, dehumidification. The first figure here is for communicating and non-communicating thermostats. All right. You're going to notice there is a jumper from R to HumStat. This is on the thermostat terminals on the control board of the 96 variable speed. They do call out some options here of A, do not install jumper. All right, that's when the thermostat is controlling the humidity or dehumidification. Do not install the jumper. Or B, if the thermostat is not controlling it, then install the jumper. Okay, when you install this jumper, it'll automatically energize those contacts and close them on a call for heat. So here are the contacts down. Let me get a different pointer. The contacts down here are your dry contacts. So it closes the relay and then closes the contacts and sending power down to your humidifier. Notice you are supplying power from a separate transformer. If you have any questions at all while we go through this humidification and stuff, let me know. Next one down here, this is probably the most common that we see, especially when you're not using the humidity or thermostat to control it. Notice they come off of R, 24 volts goes to your separate humidistat. Out of your humidistat, it'll send 24 volts when it closes to HumStat, and also your 24 volts down to the humidifier terminal. When HumStat gets 24 volts to it, it will close these contacts on your call for heat. When those close, they actually have a separate relay that they would rather you see installed versus going directly to the humidifier solenoid. And then your relay will energize the humidifier, the solenoid, by your external power supply. So majority of humidifiers out there, when you purchase them, they do come with an additional transformer. And that's where this additional transformer is coming into play. That's where they are breaking it. Any questions on those at all? I know some of these are actually a lot of questions. Looks like we might have a question here. Give me 1 second. Okay, we got that one answered already. All right. I'm going to unmute one of the guys here. It looks like they may have had a question. 1 second. All right, Logan, you guys are unmuted at the time. Is there any kind of question you have on the humidifier terminals?
Yeah, when you use the Econet stack, how do you test that humidity to see if the humidifier is working when you're above 45% humidity in the house?
All right, give me 1 second. So the question is, if you have an Econet thermostat, how do you test the humidity? There are a couple different ways they came out with. I believe now they have a test that you can send and test the humidity closing with it. The other option that they came up with is you're able to raise the humidity setting to up to 90 to 99%. Then that'll be able to close those contacts. I'm going to verify through Econet. I'm going to verify through the Econet which ones, how to test that properly. I know in the past you were able to raise it to 99% at one point. So on the very early stages, they were not able to raise it to 99%. It was capped out, but I know on the newer communication ones, they were able to raise it up higher. So let me see here. Looks like we have another question. Might have went away. So. All right, so it looks like we got those questions answered. I will get that put out in a bulletin on how to test for the humidity when you first install them. All right, so moving off from the humidification, dehumidification, these are the same charts. We will get into the actual blower setup. So here are your dip switches on your gas furnace that you have. I'm going to go back up a couple pages and show you where these are found on the control board. Where they're found on the control board, you're going to find S1, S2, and S3. These are switch bank 1, switch bank 2, and switch bank 3. There's a total of 18 dip switches right there. So there's 6 on each bank. S1 has S1 through 1 through 6. S2 has 7 through 13. And then S3 has the rest. So there's 6 on each one. We're going to come down here then and go back to those switches. So switch 1 is only for upflow or downflow application. So what they're referring to there, it has nothing to do with the actual design of the furnace. The only thing S1 does here, if you're in the upflow position, it comes automatically in the off position. And that is your air codes on the gas furnace, whether they're turned upside down or right side up. If you have an upflow application, leave it in the off position. So my example is going to be a code 59. So in an upflow application, when it is in off position, you get a code 59. You see it as a code 59. If you're an upflow application, yet you turn it on, then it flips your dip switches or turns your dip switch. It turns your diagnostic codes over. So your diagnostic code of a 59 will actually look like a 56 at that time. And then you will be calling into us asking what code is a 56. We do not find that anywhere in our books. So do verify that first dip switch is an upflow or downflow application. They did it more of ease of service for you to easily see the error codes. That's all dip switch number 1 does. Dip switch number 2 and 3, those are your cool heat pump blower off time delays. So it's when the unit shuts off, the blower off time delay comes factory set for 30 seconds. You have the option of making it 0, 30, 45, or 60 seconds. Fairly simple just by flipping them on. If you want 0 seconds after the unit shuts off, then you will flip number 2 and number 3 to the on position. Dip switch 4 and 5. Number 4 and 5 are going to be your cool and heat pump airflow selection. So you're going to find here the CFM on a 3-ton drive. The furnaces that are 17 inches wide or 17.5 inches wide will have a 3-ton drive. A 21-inch wide furnace and a 24-inch wide furnace will have a 5-ton drive. So the 40,000, 60,000, and 70,000 BTU furnaces will have a 3-ton drive. The 85, 100, and 115 will all have a 5-ton drive. From the factory, they come set up both in the off position. If we focus on the 3-ton drive, you're going to get it 1,050 CFM. They're figuring approximately 350 to 375 CFM per ton at that point, doing a little bit more dehumidification with the air conditioner. If you want to lower it, change switch number 4 to on and switch 5 to off. That'll lower your airflow to 875, which gets it more in line for a 2-ton to approximately a 2.5 ton. You can see it goes as low as 525. And then you'll see on the 5-ton drive, 1750 is high, 1050 is low. Notice they call out switch number 9 at the bottom here. Switch number 9 is if you have a 2-stage air conditioner or 2-stage heat pump. When 9 over here is in the off position, your first stage airflow will be 75% of the rated airflow you have selected here. So if you have 1,050, 75% of 1,050 is approximately 760 CFM. That'll be your first stage airflow. A lot of people ask, well, what's the difference between the 75 and the 50%? When would you use a 50% airflow? So flipping dip switch number 9 to the on position, you're only going to get 500 CFM instead of 1,050. The 50% airflow is when you're using a tandem compressor on a 2-stage outdoor unit. Typically, those compressors are split evenly 50-50 and not 75-25. So it looks like we might have a question here. Hang on 1 second. I'll unmute you in a minute. All right, go ahead. Your question?
Well, this was actually referring back to the Econet with the humidification testing, because like it says in there that you can raise it to the 99 or whatever, 95%, but it says that it will not engage the humidifier above 45%. So if you have over 45% humidity in the house, we've not been able to find a way of testing the humidifier to see if it works and goes through the thermostat.
Okay. I have a guy on it right now checking that out on how to test that out.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll have an answer here before we end. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to switch number 6 and number 7. Now here's where it gets a little tricky for some installers and service guys. Notice switch number 6 is going to be on your first bank of dip switches. Switch number 7 is on the second bank of dip switches. So 6 will be on the far right and 7 will be on the far left. Here's your trim. So 6 and 7 work in series with 4 and 5. Should you want a full 1,200 CFM on a 3-ton drive, you will want to take switch 6 and 7, take 6 to the on position, 7 leave it in the off position. You will now increase your cooling airflow by 10%. At that point, you will be fully moving approximately 400 CFM per ton. If you want to decrease it even more for more dehumidification or for additional airflows, you can decrease it by 10%. Switch 6 is in the off position. Switch number 7 is going to be in the on position. One thing I use that a lot for, decreasing by 10%. If you get into the 5-ton drives, I've had a few instances where we have maybe an 85,000 BTU furnace with a 2-ton air conditioner. So it's not always highly recommended to have a 2-ton air conditioner on the 85,000 furnace, yet it does happen. So at that point, I will take switch number 7 in the on position, switch number 6 off position, and I can come down here to number 4 and 5, and I go to D and take 4 and 5, put them both in the on position. So that's 1,050 minus 10%. So we will be approximately 800 and change on CFM, getting us more into a 2-ton airflow range. So there are options there to get your airflow even lower should you need it, or to better dehumidify using a 2.5-ton unit on a 5-ton drive. So any questions on that at all? That seems to be a little bit of a question sometimes on more application. Some guys do run into that every once in a while. All right, moving to switch number 8. That's on-demand dehumidification. We don't really get into that a lot. Should you have questions on that, just let me know. Just know you can turn that to on position to enable dehumidification, which then slows down your blower speed. Number 9, you're going to see, we talked about that first stage compressor airflow. That works in series with number 4 and number 5. You'll then find dip switch number 10 and 11. So now we're getting more into the heating side of the airflow. 10 and 11 are only used if you have a single stage thermostat. So if you have a single stage thermostat and you want a time between stages, then you will set dip switch 10 and 11. So number 10 and 11 come factory set in the off position. If you have a single stage stat, you wire it down to W1 on the control board. If you do not change 10 and 11, you leave them in the off position and you're only wired to W1, you will never come out of first stage. If you take 10 and flip it to on, your unit will fire up. It'll go to first stage for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, it'll then go to second stage. Same is true for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on your timing that you want for your application and design. So that is only used when you have a single stage thermostat. Moving to dip switch number 12. So here's our continuous fan airflow. It comes at the lowest setting from the factory, which is off position. A 3-ton drive is 500 CFM and 800 CFM if you flip it to on. A 5-ton drive, you have the option of 700 or 1200 CFM. Notice you only have 2 options here when using the dip switches and not using the Econet thermostat. If you use the Econet thermostat, Econet takes over and it gives you 5 different setting options for that instead of 2. All right, switch number 13 and 14. 13 and 14 is going to be our low heat temperature rise. Comes factory set in the off position at a nominal temperature rise. If you take switch number 13 and turn it to the on position and leave 14 off, you are going to slow your airflow down, which will increase your temperature rise by approximately 7 degrees. Almost every time I go to a job site or see a job site, I recommend going to that plus 7 degrees or slowing your airflow down a little bit, getting a higher temperature rise as long as we are within the specifications of the temperature rise for that actual model. Typically, a homeowner is a little bit more happy with that increase of 7 degrees. Should you want, you can go an increase of 12 degrees or decrease it by 7. All right, and again, those are approximate degrees. It's not going to be exact. Those were done at the factory in their controlled lab, and that is what they found. That is all on first stage. Second stage gives you the option to do it also, so you can increase or decrease your temperature rise on second stage should you like. Again, that is all on your setup, installer, service, and application. 17 and 18 is going to be your heat blower off delay. Comes factory set at 90 seconds. You have the option to go into 120, 160, and 180. Just note there that rarely ever do I ever see that changed from 90 unless you're experiencing any kind of issues or you want to get more heat out of that heat exchanger. You can increase that blower off time delay. So any questions on setting the dip switches for that 96 variable speed furnace? One thing to note, if you have questions, raise your hand. But one note is if you use the Econet thermostat, Econet takes over versus any dip switch settings. So the communication Econet thermostat, when you install it, if you flip all the dip switches to on, Econet will ignore the dip switches and do as it is told and set up inside Econet. All right, doesn't look like there's too many questions on that. Hopefully that was explained well enough. Let me move on to our next section here, and then we'll be ending soon. So one thing I wanted to point out is that we have a pretty awesome tool here. We have a pretty awesome tool here that Rheem just rolled out on MyRheem and MyRood.com. Every contractor should have an account set up for MyRheem or MyRood. And you can set up additional users for your service techs and everything. There's a lot of information here. This is where you find spec sheets, installation manuals, warranty information, and all that stuff. So one thing that they have designed and literally just rolled out yesterday, well, I'll be sending out a bulletin on this. If you come up to the top right-hand corner where it says type to search, say you have an Econet thermostat and it's giving you an error code. And let's say your error code is A929. I type in A929 error code. If you come down to the portals, it'll give you information on that error code. You have a missing communication failure. If you click on the error code underneath that portal, it'll go to more information for that error code so that you can now see the information for the error code throughout here and how to diagnose that error code. Other things to look at, where you will see that error code at, and different. At the variable speed outdoor unit, what it's saying here is you will get a code 16 on the outdoor unit. At the Econet thermostat, you'll have A929. On the drive, you'll have 11 LED flashes it shows. So a little bit more information there for you. Hopefully that can help you diagnose better, help you guys out in the field when it comes to Econet, the communication. Now, to get to all that information, they also came up with this. It's mobile friendly. It is not an app at this time. They're looking at making an app, but it is mobile friendly. As you come to MyRheem.com, here's the home page. Yours might look a little different than mine. I have a little bit more access being a service on the service side. If you come to products on the top side, click on products, drop down to product technical support. Click on product technical support. Here's where you're going to find information on all the current products. So you see on the right-hand side, current products. You can come down and select gas furnace and all the current gas furnaces they have. When you select the gas furnace, it'll then give you specifications, install sheets, warranties, and other information. If we go back, so again, we come to the top, you see where it says at your fingertips. I'm going to try to point that out here. At your fingertips. You'll want to click on at your fingertips. When you click on that, it's going to bring up information that you can see. Again, I may have a little bit more information on mine than you'll see on yours. The very first thing is the temperature rise or temperature resistance chart. If you click on the chart here, it'll give you the 10K ohm temperature resistance chart that they use for their heat pumps and their sensors. If you scroll down through, you'll see some other things on like a variable speed outdoor unit test mode, how to put it in a test mode, some accessories, your pressure switch charts. What I want to point out is at the very top is the Econet technician. This is awesome here. So if you click on Econet technician, it's going to bring you into a new screen, and the new screen is going to give you options of your outdoor unit, the gas furnaces, air handlers, the thermostat, which is a new 700 series thermostat that you're installing today, zoning information, and then all alarms. So you can select the unit that you have. Say we come down and we have the 96 variable speed. You can come down to the 96 variable speed and it'll give you information on how to test, say, the gas valve, the communication, information on the wiring, the water management system. If we come to all alarms and alerts for the 96 variable speed, you select where you're reading the alarm at, whether it be the furnace control board or the Econet thermostat. Click on Econet thermostat, and it'll come down through and give you all your error codes that you will receive from that 96 variable speed. So say we get down to an A026_F. F will stand for furnace. We're going to click on that. Here it'll tell you what you see at the Econet, what you see at your IFC on the actual gas furnace control board, and how to troubleshoot it or what to look for. This is some really good information that I suggest you get to all your service techs. This is information we're looking up all the time, helping everybody out. So to give you a little bit more information on it, if we click on the water management side of that, and we scroll down, it gives us what we have, a T059_F, what to look for on a code 59, or if we have an open water circuit. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go back to the very beginning. The other thing I want to point out is coming down is they have all alarms. When you click all alarms, it's going to ask you, what does your alarm end with? Now, you may not know that. What do you mean, what does my alarm end with? We looked at the gas furnace one. It ended with an _F. That was for furnaces. You can click on that and then go down through all the alarms that work with the gas furnaces. So again, we could go to 33, which is an over temperature switch. So a rollout switch is open. And it will give us information on how to troubleshoot and what causes those to open up, what to look for. I'm going to go back. One other important thing I'm going to show you is if you come to the thermostat, the 700 series thermostat, and you click on that, you can come down and see the alarms. You can check out the wiring on how to wire it, compatible equipment, provisioning the Wi-Fi, setup, dual fuel setup, humidity. So if you click on just say setup, it'll go through the information on setting up the clock, the electric heat, safeties, auxiliary switches built in, and it'll tell you what to not do with that setup. So good information there. We're going to go back to the thermostat. And under that 700 series thermostat, you'll see it says humidity, weather info, and thermostat simulator. So thermostat simulator is really cool because you can actually touch it and change modes, go to cool, and see how it operates and what it looks like when you operate it. I'm going to go back there. I clicked on the humidity droplet here. At that point, you can enable dehumidification or not enable it. It comes factory set in as no. So I clicked on humidification down here, enable it, and your humidity set point. When you want to humidify, you can do during heat, cool, or heat and fan. You have a couple different options there on when you want to actually do humidification. A lot of people ask, why would you want to run the humidity during cooling? Some points, maybe down south around Arizona where it gets dry, they actually run some humidification while they're doing cooling. Smart control, humidity fan, so you can go through there. Now, the error codes I want to show you, if you go to the 3 lines, straight lines right here in the bottom left-hand corner, go to the service tool. You can then go to your current alarm. And it's saying the current alarm is A004_C. Your air source is not detected. You can clear the alarm by pressing clear or go back. You can also click on history and see the time and the date and what alarm happened. It's pretty cool that you can see, hey, possibly a frozen coil. So it's giving you a little bit of information there. You can take this information, then go back to the alarms and get more information from it from that Econet technician. So the support phone number in here is where you type your contractor phone number, name, company name, contractor email. The Wi-Fi support they put as a different number. The Wi-Fi support is not going to troubleshoot the furnace. They're not going to troubleshoot the Econet thermostat. They are only there to help hook up to Wi-Fi and the app. That is the only thing that phone number will get you, or the homeowner. A lot of times if the homeowner's having trouble with the Wi-Fi, we refer them right to this number here. So that's pretty much a lot of what we had to show you today. Again, I wanted to show you one more time on how to get to that Econet technician. So from the home screen on MyReam or myrood.com, go to products in the top left-hand corner, come down to product technical support, click at your fingertips, and then select Econet technician. When you select the Econet technician, you are now into the Econet tech help. So I'll be sending a little bit more communications out on this to easily get you and or your service tech signed up through MyReam, MyRood. Every contractor should have a login and password to get into MyReam or MyRood, and then we can set up additional users under your account. Are there any questions before we get off here and let you guys go? All right, one thing we're looking at with the humidity, we did have a question on that humidity. It looks like if you select to test the humidifier, it says change the humidify set point up to test. So apparently the set point will go all the way up to test is what they're saying. Select humidify during heat and fan. When you humidify during heat/fan, then turn on a continuous fan speed on the setting screens of the Econet thermostat. This should force the humidifier to run. It will last for 30 minutes, where the maximum setting will return to 4% below the dehumidify set point if you do not take it back out itself. So that is how to test the humidifier. You're going to change it to heat and fan and select test in the humidity set point. So hopefully that answers your question. If you still have questions, definitely contact me on that. I don't see anybody has any questions right now. Nobody's raised their hand. We'll try to have more information out later on. If there's something you would definitely want us to cover in the future on installation or setup, definitely shoot me a text or an email. Let me know what you want to cover or what I want to cover, and we will go from there. So I